Did you know that you can actually break into investment banking from your first year and second year of university without having to have graduated? To be honest, this is what most people don't even know, and this is the easiest way to break into investment banking by statistics. Now, what I'm talking about specifically is Spring Week. And in this video, I'm going to make sure that you understand the hell out of everything you need to know about Spring Week, what it is, how long it is, which company you can apply to, how does the recruitment process look like, and what kind of university you need to get in order to apply and be successful in your Spring Week application, and the juicy tips and strategies used by our students to land 7 Spring Week offers from big companies like Nomura, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and a lot more. So if you just finished your high school, you're starting your first year next year, or you already finished your first year university and you're going into your second year, this is the video for you. So Spring Week is a structured learning and work experience program organized by big companies, most commonly in finance, banking, and also consulting industry, which ranges between 1 day to 2 weeks during Easter holiday. And what it does is it allows you to have in-depth and also in-person experience at the company side to understand in-depth about different departments within that company. And it's a fantastic opportunity for you if you are considering investment banking or strategy consulting as your future career options. And why did I say Spring Week is the easiest way to get investment banking offer is because if you do well in your Spring Week, then you have 50 to 60% chance of getting a return offer for next year's summer intern program. And as we all know, in summer internship program, 70% of the summer interns are going to receive the return offer for the full-time job offer, which means if you get your Spring Week offers, then you have the key to unlock the path and the door to break into investment banking way earlier than most of other students. So who is it for? Now, Spring Week is not for graduate students, not for PhD, not for MBA students. It's specifically designed by big banks and consulting firms for first year of university students who are enrolled in the 3-year program or second year of students who are enrolled in the 4-year program. Either way, they want to make sure that you're graduating in 3 years, which is the key thing. So if you're graduating in 2028, then you can apply to Spring Week this year. If you're graduating in 2029, then you can apply to Spring Week next year. And from the company perspective, is that the most efficient way to find talents from early on, and they don't have to spend so much time finding talents, taking the risk of getting someone who's incompetent, who doesn't vibe with the culture, and they will be able to start screening from like year 1 of university student and give offers to those who are early rising stars, which also explains why it is so difficult and nearly impossible to get into investment banking once you are already graduated. Because 70% of the offers are already given to the previous summer interns, which means you only have 30% of available spots to actually compete to. And the worst part as well is there's going to be 3 times to 4 times more competitors and candidates just because everybody who will be graduating this year, next year, or those who already graduated last year or year before, they are all applying to graduate scheme and the final full-time offers. And you guys are all competing for just 30% of the remaining position, which is why it's pretty much impossible once you get to the graduate scheme and later stage. So which is why Spring Week application and summer internship application is the best time and the best chance for you to break into investment banking. Now, the next thing is, how does the Spring Week actually look like? Why is it called Spring Week, and what can you expect if you do get an offer? So Spring Week typically is 1 week. In banking industry and asset management, you typically have 1 week or sometimes occasionally 2 weeks. And in consulting industry, especially like MBB, McKinsey, Bain, BCG, they typically just have 1 day inside day instead of like whole week. Whereas in Big Four, then you can have also 1 week too, which is pretty common. So what usually happens, let's say in a typical 1 week Spring Week, in the first 4 days, you're going to have lots of presentations given by different departments that gives you a lot more better understanding of how it looks like in every part and what kind of project you will be working on. And you also have panel discussion, you listen to different speakers, and then they answer Q&A question from students, and you can have networking session every day too. And you'll also be able to shadow a lot of these companies to see what actually looks like behind the scene working in that position. Now, the key thing as well is there are 2 parts where the companies are going to assess you to make a decision on whether they want to give you the return offer for next year's summer internship. First is they're going to observe you throughout this entire week to see how proactive you are, what kind of question you ask them, how good you are at asking questions, how good you are with your communication skills too. Now, second, which is the most important part, is in the final day, you are going to have an assessment center. For those of you guys who don't know what assessment center is, it's essentially multiple activities that you will have to do, and that includes group discussion, and it usually includes a group case interview / group case study and more one-on-one interviews. So think of it as like an intense, like half a day or a whole day where you literally are grilled by a company, and they also want to see how you solve problems, solve the specific case within the group, and the results, and usually at the end of the day, and by observing how you network with people, interact with the other employees, and also how you ask questions, plus the final day of assessment center, then they will be able to judge if they want to give you a return offer for next year. Which is why when you do receive a spring week offer, do as much as you can, be proactive, talk to people, and really utilize it as a learning opportunity. And the main goal for you is to actually convert it into a summer internship offer. Now, the next big question is, what kind of industry, what kind of companies can you actually apply to for Spring Week? The brutal fact about Spring Week is that it's just not available for every single industry, and it wouldn't be offered by a lot of companies. And to be exact, there are only maximum 50 companies that offer Spring Week, which is why it makes it quite competitive. And there are 3 industries that typically offer Spring Week programs for university students. First, and the most important one, investment banking. Now, this includes the top 3 investment banks, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and also the bulge bracket, the top 9 investment banks, and also a couple of other smaller, banks as well. Now, the second industry that also offers Spring Week is asset management or fund. So that includes BlackRock, Fidelity, Schroders, Blackstone. Now, the third most common industry that also offers Spring Week is consulting. Now, this includes MBB, McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, the Big Four, the strategy consulting arm of the Big Four, which is different from the traditional Big Four, and a couple of other international consulting firms too. Now, the insights, this is where you guys need to pay attention to, is the likelihood of converting your Spring Week offer to summer internship offer varies depending on the industry too, which we have observed in the past years of working with hundreds of students. Investment banking typically has the highest conversion rate from Spring Week to summer intern, and consulting industry typically has the lowest in terms of conversion. And specifically, if your goal is to get a return offer for summer, then we will not recommend you to go for MBB Spring Day, which is only 1 day instead of 1 week, and they don't really give a lot of return offer for their students. It's literally for them just to give you information and give you overview and details of how it looks like working as a management and strategy consultant. So if you are actually interested in consulting and you want to get a return offer out of your Spring Week, then we would encourage you to apply to non-MBB consulting firms like Big Four, where you have a lot higher chance to get the return offer for next summer intern. So now, next question. Who can apply? Is there a preference for universities from these companies? As we all know, there is what we call target school. And target school are typically a list of schools and universities that are hired preferably by a lot of bigger companies. And to be honest, there is such a thing. Whether target school really matters purely depends on the industry and also the department that you will be applying to. So typically, if you are applying to investment banking, specifically within the front office, we're talking about M&A, IBD, equity research, asset management, sales and trading, then typically they do prefer hiring from target schools. But if you're targeting the non-front office, like mid or the back office, which is more common for software engineering or operation, right, then target school doesn't matter so much. Now, which university are within this list of target school hired preferably by investment banks and also consulting firms? We have the usual top 5, which is called G5 in the UK, which consisted of Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, UCL, and Imperial. Other universities that are also target school too, for example, University of Warwick, University of Manchester, University of Nottingham, Durham University, University of Bath, University of Bristol, and a couple of more Russell Group universities. So if you're from these target school, then good news, you can apply to pretty much everything. But unfortunately, if you don't come from target school and you still want to get into spring week, then you probably need to target more carefully around the mid or the back office of investment banking and some of the less competitive consulting firms. Now, we have learned what is spring week, why you should apply to, what are the chances of getting a full-time offer out of spring week, and who can apply to. Now, the next question is, when does the recruitment process start for spring week? So typically for spring week, majority of the applications start in September. And we are seeing a lot of investment banks, especially the top one, usually release their spring week application in line with their graduate schemes and summer internships. September and October are typically going to be the peak season and time for not just graduate scheme application, but also spring week application too. So what you need to do, step one, is first to decide which industries you're interested in applying for spring week. Second, make a list of companies that you know that you are interested in applying to and track their openings for spring week every single week. Step three, start making your application. Make sure that your CV are up to date and also is what is required by these companies. And step four, you need to understand how the recruitment process actually look like, which is something I'm going to talk about now. So when it comes to recruitment process for spring week, it has multiple stages. It's very different from what you usually do from work experience if you are an A-level student, but it's a little bit less complicated than the graduate scheme application process. There are 3 stages that you need to go through in order to get an offer for spring week. First, your CV, cover letter, and online application stage, in which you need to make sure that your CV is up to date. It reflects, what you have done and your academics. And cover letter has to be very much tailored to the position and also the company that you're applying to. And your application form is what you have to fill up for every single company for their online application stage. Now, once your CV, your cover letter, and your online application have been received by the company and they took a look at it, they love it, then you will be invited to do what we call online assessment test. Now, online assessment test has multiple different types of tests you have to prepare for, which is similar to graduate scheme, which I covered in a separate video. You have to prepare for numerical tests, logic tests, verbal reasoning, and most importantly, situational judgment tests, in which they're going to give you a very specific scenario and you have to choose multiple different actions and rank them based on what's most appropriate and what's least appropriate. So if you pass the online test, which, to be honest, my advice would be for you to aim as high as you can in terms of score, because there's going to be hundreds or thousands of students applying for the same position. So it's not just about passing the test anymore. It's also about scoring as high as you can so your profile stand out. If you pass your online test, then the third stage is typically a video interview or a phone interview. And video interview is not like the one-on-one conversation you're going to have. It's more about pre-recorded video interview. So for example, here is one screenshot of a video interview question from BlackRock. As you can see, it's very short. You don't have a lot of time to prep. You have 2 minutes to prep. You have 2 minutes to answer. And usually you only have one time. If you fail, you want to re-record it, then you won't be able to do it again. And to be honest, this is most nerve-wracking part of the entire recruitment process, especially this is your first time speaking in front of camera. Now, some companies, they just do phone interview. They don't have pre-recorded video interviews. They're going to call you up, then they're going to ask you like standard interview question. And mostly, because this is spring week, you don't have a lot of technical skills yet, it's going to be much more focused on your behavior interview question and motivational interview question. Things like why you want to apply to this program, why you're interested in this firm, what's your long-term goal, and how will this program help you achieve your long-term goal. So once you have done with your phone interview, then you don't have assessment center unlike the graduate scheme. You usually will receive a pretty quick answer, even sometimes within the same day. Or some other companies, if you do video interviews, it's going to take a little bit longer to get the decision, just because they're going to have to go through the video interviews one by one. They're going to pick which student they prefer more. So now you have a much better understanding about what spring weeks are, why you need to apply. I'm also going to give you my top 3 advice and suggestion on how you can stand out and be the person to get the offer in investment banking way before all of your classmates do, and become that top 2% of students. The biggest tip that I will give to every single student is to apply early. Did you know the offer rate for spring week is only 2%? That is crazy, 2%. That is lower than applying to Harvard. And because a lot of these spring weeks are actually operated on rolling basis, which means first come, first serve. If you have prepared everything, you've done perfect, but just because you're late by 2 months, then unfortunately you still don't get the spot just because all of these positions have already been filled. So most of the recruitment process starts in September and October, and you want to be the person pretty much ready to go and apply as soon as you can, so that you have that first mover advantage. They look at your CV first, they move you through the recruitment process faster, and you are on track to get the job offer. And there are even students that got their spring week offer in November just because they're the first person who applied and they did everything perfectly in the entire recruitment process. Now, tip number 2 is to apply more. Remember at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that there are 40 to 50 companies that actually offer spring week. So you don't want to just apply to 5 or 8 and hoping that you will be able to get the offer, because not only is a quality game, meaning how good you are in writing your CV, cover letters, and company research, it's also about quantity. The more you apply by numbers, the higher chance you're going to get an offer. Now, tip number 3 is practice, practice, and practice. So that goes to your online test and video interview. Based on our experience of helping hundreds of students so far with their recruitment process, we notice it's not just about how much you know, but it's also about how much you actually have applied and how good you are in actually interviewing. And that comes from pure practice. It's not just about learning YouTube videos. It's not just knowing, okay, this is how the test is gonna look like. It's also about how you identify your weakness and what you're going to do to improve that. And that comes from lots of practice and also real-time feedback. So then you'll be able to change and iterate and improve really quick. And this is where we come in as well. We do have a comprehensive question bank. As you can see, we have questions for BNP Paribas, HSBC, Citibank, BlackRock, all of 60 plus companies. And these are the real tests that would allow you to see before you even do the test. We even have students that got identical test question in their online test and video interviews before. This is our secret weapon, and it's part of the one-to-one coaching program. And on top of that, we do have weekly mock interview and mock assessment center practice, so that you get to practice so many times a week. And by practicing so many times and getting feedback, you become supernatural. Interviewing becomes your second nature, and in the real interview, instead of panicking and also realizing you suck, you know exactly what to do in order to pass the actual interviews. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then click the link in the comment section to learn how we can help you to land your dream offer in investment banking and consulting. Now we have covered everything that you need to know about spring week, and I really wish more students are going to have this awareness about applying early, especially in their first year, so that they're just gonna have a lot smoother and easier job application process. And I'm curious, what did you learn the most from this video? Comment in the section to let me know as well, so that I'll be able to tailor future content and also video based on what you think will help you the most and what you learned the most from this video. And if you're unfortunately too late to the game of spring week and you have to focus on graduate scheme application, I've got a lot of videos about graduate scheme. When should you apply? How do you apply? What's a step-by-step strategy and recruitment process explanation of how to crack the graduate scheme? And what's the difference between grad scheme and also entry-level roles? All of these are available in my video, so definitely check them out. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.